Shalom, all praises to Yahweh, Bar Shem, Yahweh Shai, Bar Shem, HaRakah, Kadosh. Double wonders unto your apostles and elders of great millstone who rule well. And Shalom to the whole full elect. This is News and Prophecy and News. Coming back at you again with an article from Sky News. And the title reads, Coronavirus, whole of Italy put on lockdown as public told to stay at home. Alright? So here's a picture showing tourists wear protective masks in St. Peter's Square at the Vatican. So they're in the Vatican City with face masks on. The whole of Italy is being put on lockdown as the country tries to stop the spread of coronavirus. Now, if you remember correctly, you had the northern region, Milan included, the financial capital, fashion capital, amongst many other things, in Italy was on lockdown. And now they've basically broadened that ban to the whole of Italy. All public gatherings will be banned. Sports events, including football matches, are suspended. And movement is being severely restricted across the nation in a bid to contain COVID-19. The disease caused by coronavirus. Okay, so they're trying to stop the spread of it, going from an epidemic, as they look at it now, into a pandemic. Okay, Italy is Europe's worst hit nation in the outbreak with 463 virus-related deaths. So that's a whole lot. That's a whole lot of people dying, man. An increase of almost 120 in a 24-hour period. Wow. So you had 100 bodies dropped in 24 hours due to COVID-19 coronavirus, and more than 9,000 confirmed infections in infections in over just 2 weeks. All right, so we can see this is snowballing until the 3rd of April. Around 60 million people will effectively be under quarantine. But bloody hell. So we're talking about for just under a month, man. All right, that it's the 9th today. 6 minus from 31 is 25 days. So we're talking about 25 days, about 3 weeks. People are gonna be just over 3 weeks. People are gonna be on lockdown at home, stationary. All right, and you know this shit's a test run, man. Them doing these kind of things as well. For them to, build up their intel before what? They go and use this same model in other parts of the world. All right. So it says until the 3rd of April, around 60 million people will effectively be under quarantine by the strict measures which had already been introduced in northern and some central areas over the weekend. People arriving in the UK from anywhere in Italy have been told by the Foreign Office to self-isolate for 14 days. So anyone coming from that region, you gotta stay at home for 14 days, all right? That's what they're saying, all right? And Britons have also been warned against all but essential travel to the whole of the country. So you ain't even really, they're not saying that you can't go there, but they're advising you that you shouldn't go there unless there's something essential that is out there for you. All right. Italy's Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte is urging the public to stay at home, saying the future depends on us and everyone must do their part. He said people should not move around apart from for work and emergencies. And that actually reminds me of Children of Men. Because what did they show you? They had the terrorist attacks going on by that terrorist group in Children of Men. And basically people still at work. And those are the people that were the primary targets. People on their way to work, coffee shops and whatnot. All right. And the closure of schools and universities across the country is being extended to the 3rd of April. He also said public transport will remain operational. So this is like a soft, uh, what's that word? A soft, not quarantine, soft martial law, curfew and these kind of things are being implemented. Leading politicians have accused Mr. Conte of going not going far enough, with former Deputy PM Matteo Salvini calling on the government to close everything immediately without leaving room for doubts or interpretations. Wow. All right, doubts or interpretations. Now, with that, excuse me, fuck, with them saying something like that, what they're saying is basically, they're saying that, look, this is crazy because this is good cop, bad cop, in the sense of it's a former deputy prime minister. The fact that the prime minister's implementing like a quote unquote soft martial law still gives people liberty to move around somewhat, depending on the form of business that they feel that they need to do. But then also you have someone else within that's formerly part of the government coming up and saying, look, shut down everything, just lock it all down so that there can be no doubts or room for interpretations. All right. By them saying that, they basically this is the offering of a solution, but through the guise of it could get worse, and if it gets worse, I told you so kind of thing, and the people will just fly to it on some kind of like, man, I don't want to die as well, so just lock everything down and don't let no one out the house because I don't want to die because I'm healthy right now. Anyway, Lombardy President Attilio Fontana called for even more stringent rules so we can overcome this emergency. A statement from the Foreign Office said, we have amended our travel advice to recommend against all but essential travel to Italy. The safety of British nationals is always our number one priority. The advice is that anyone who arrives from Italy subsequent to Italian government decision should now self-isolate for 14 days. More than 300 of Italy's fatalities are in the Lombardy region, which includes the country's financial capital, Milan. And that right there should get the cogs in your brain circulating. All right, because it says that the main deaths are happening where? In a region that has the capital of Milan, which is the financial capital of Milan. Now, one of the earlier articles that came out, they actually said that they're thinking of what to do in terms of fiat currency. Okay, because the coronavirus can basically be contracted by the exchange of money. All right. So now, with that being said, I want to harp on something else. In the UK, they brought out the £20 note, the polymer £20 note. So now you have the 5, 10, and £20 note in polymer, but you still have the old £20 note being a paper one and the £50 note paper one in circulation. But obviously you're going to phase out the £20 note after a amount of time, the same way they did with a £10 note, the same way they did with a £5 note. Now this is just a perpetual thing, all right? It's gradualism. The gradualism of bringing about the RFID chip, which will offer a form of monetary transaction through the use of the RFID chip being implanted in said person's right hand or any place in their body, okay, to basically be used as a means of a means of what do you call it, a financial transaction. All right, if you follow, man, I know I'm kind of using these big words and all that, but this is the point. The fact that this happened in the financial capital Milan gives it more reason to be like, look, you know what? We need to go to the cashless, move to a cashless society where there's no forms of contact. Even they're talking about handshaking should be outlawed. Because I saw one of the top stories said what to do in the coronavirus era, handshaking in a coronavirus era. Let's see if I can find this article. Nope, not here. Slovakia. Wait, hold on, might be here. There you go. Coronavirus, how the peak cases are cut by social. Nope, that's not it. Okay, never mind. Can't find it, man. So anyway, back to this article. So that's the point, that this is going to be a big way for them to, if not bring it in, but set the building blocks, the foundation, the lay the ground, so to speak, to basically pave the way for the RFID chip. Okay. So reading on, Lombardy is one of 5 regions which had already had areas in lockdown, in a so-called red zone, with cinemas, theatres and museums closed and restaurant hours restricted. The measures had affected 10 million residents in the whole of Lombardy and another 6 million in the provinces of Modena, Parma, Piacenza, Reggio Emilia, Rimini, Pesaro, and Urbino. Alessandria, Asati, Novara, Verbano, Cosio, Ossola, Versili, Padua, Treviso, and the tourist hotspot of Venice. Mr. Conte will sign a new decree and the nationwide limitations will be introduced in the morning. So this is a new decree, all right? And as far it says, it's going to last to 3rd of April. But let's see what happens, all right? To bring history into account, the passport was meant to be a temporary form of travel. But guess what happened with that? It became a mainstay, a staple in terms of travel. Now you can't travel without your passport. And why was that done? And there was another article I read that basically all of these IMF, all of these major companies, you could say, or groups, they come out of crises, all right? And this is the same thing. When these crises come about, that's when they start implementing things in place, all right? So reading on it, he told reporters that restrictions introduced 2 days ago were no longer sufficient and they would have to be extended to the whole country. The PM said there won't be just a red zone, adding there will be Italy as a protected area. Mr. Conte also criticized young people in much of Italy who have been gathering at night to socialize during the public health emergency, which stated on the 21st of February, this nightlife, we can't allow this anymore. Bloody hell. So they're saying the young ones can't even go out raving no more. All right? So they're saying that, look, you lot ain't taking it seriously enough. So you lot can't go out enjoy it. Nah, this is... And you know that's going to snowball the young population. That's going to snowball into some shit, man. Expect protests to outbreak off the strength of this, because a lot of people are not going to be happy with a new form of lifestyle that they're going to have to adopt in these circumstances, all right? Because he's saying, look, these people, when the seriousness of this threat came into play, he's all out there raving and having one-night stands and whatnot. Meanwhile, 6 inmates have died and several others have climbed onto the roof of the jail following the protests across various prisons in Italy over measures to contain the virus. See? People not happy with the way that the plague's being dealt with. In the south, Puglia, Basilicata, Calabria, uh, Campania, and Molise have seen just dozens of COVID cases between them and a handful of deaths. In a bid to deter a mass influx, southern regions issued decrees on Sunday telling people who do arrive from northern red zones that they had to go into quarantine for 2 weeks. Earlier on Monday, Italy shut all of its ski resorts, and Mr. Conte said he would use massive shock therapy to battle the outbreak. Bloody hell. So, what is this massive shock therapy? More than 3,900 people have died across the world in the outbreak, the vast majority in mainland China. Now that the virus has a foothold in so many countries, the threat of a pandemic has become very real, said World Health Organization Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus. But he welcomed Italy's tough measures, noting that 4 countries, China, South Korea, and Italy, and Iran, accounting for 93% of the cases worldwide. So yeah, it's showing you it's on and percolating right now. It's on and popping. But let me grab this scripture. So 2 Ezra 15:17, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. Now you got the young men desiring to go into the city to go about their usual lifestyles. They know it, but guess what? They're being met by resistance by the powers that be. Okay, because that's this scripture come into effect. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. All right, because why? It's being called enough. Martial law is being implemented, and again, this PM Conte, he said it in a real light way, but you had the former deputy prime minister that basically said, "Yo, we gotta go in," basically. But obviously, that's ultimately what's gonna happen, because the circumstances that are at hand are only set to get worse. Alright, verse 18. For because of their pride the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. And that's what it's snowballing into. It's snowballing into a place. It's going to snowball into that. But as it stands right now, it says, because of their pride, the city shall be troubled. Yeah, their pride against the Most High Power, because these are the plagues of the Heavenly Father. Alright? One of many plagues that's coming to play out on this earth. Right now, it's affecting who it's affecting, but who knows where it can go? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, prophecy is being fulfilled and moves are being made. Revelations 12:12, the devil knows that it's a short time.